I swore I would never love again. Until I saw a waitress caring for my daughter like her own. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart felt like it was shattering, piece by piece, every breath a struggle. I stood there in that diner, the smell of burnt coffee and stale bread mingling with the bittersweet scent of my own tears. My hands trembled as I gripped the edge of the table, a lifeline against the chaos of my mind. It was supposed to be a simple breakfast, just me and my little girl, Mia. But that morning, everything changed. She sat across from me, a wisp of a child with bright eyes and golden hair that bounced when she laughed. But her laughter was gone. In its place was a silence so heavy, I could hardly bear it. The corner of her mouth twitched, and I felt a lump rise in my throat. I wanted to reach across the table, to take her hand in mine and make everything all right again. But then I saw her, a waitress gliding through the aisles like she owned the floor, her smile bright enough to light up the dim corners of the diner. Something about her drew me in. Her name tag said Sarah. Her movements were fluid, almost ethereal, as if she floated rather than walked. I watched as she leaned down to Mia, eyes sparkling with genuine warmth. It was a kindness I hadn't seen in ages. The way Sarah tucked a loose strand of hair behind Mia's ear felt so personal, so intimate. I could feel my heart beating faster, a rhythm of confusion echoing in my chest. Who was this woman? Why did she care so much for my daughter? Just then, I noticed something glint around her wrist, a bracelet with small charms dangling. Each one signified something: adventures, memories, maybe even heartaches. It intrigued me. My eyes raked over the diner, patrons sipping their coffee, an old man grumbling about his eggs, a couple on a date whispering sweet nothings. But they paled in comparison to this moment. I was ensnared, captive to Sarah's energy. As she turned to leave, she glanced back. Her gaze locked onto mine, pulling me out of my spiral of despair. I saw compassion layered with an unfathomable depth, as if she carried stories I'd never dared to tell. It pulled at my insides, tugging away the numbness that had settled in since the day my world fell apart, since the moment I lost everything I thought I had. The urgency of the moment hung like thick fog in the air. It was surreal. Two souls, hers alive with hope, and mine caught in a storm of grief. I wanted to call out, to bridge the space that was growing between us, but fear kept my voice tight. Would it be wrong to crave connection after what I had lost? Just then, Mia laughed, a sweet, innocent sound breaking through my tumult. I turned to her, and Sarah knelt beside her, eyes sparkling, as Mia gestured toward the menu, excitement bubbling in her small frame. That simple act, the way Sarah engaged with Mia, reawakened something inside me. I swore I would never love again. Yet here I was, standing on the edge, caught in a web of emotions that spun faster than I could comprehend. Was it possible to feel this way so quickly, in the midst of grief? But then, as if the universe was testing me, I saw something strange flicker in Sarah's eyes, an echo of something familiar and painful. I didn't know if it was a trick of the light or a twist of fate, but whatever it was, it startled me. Was she harboring her own heartache? Was I just another chapter in a story we both shared, or was it merely my imagination? The moment hung there, pregnant with questions. What was I to do next? I felt the world closing in, the diner buzzing around us. Yet we stood in this fragile bubble. Would I find the courage to reach out, to explore this thread of connection? Or would I let it slip away into silent oblivion, just like everything else I'd lost? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed were a blur. I would wake up each morning, the sunlight creeping through the curtains, momentarily forgetting the cavernous ache in my chest. Yet, like clockwork, reality would settle back in, and I'd remember. I shared my breakfasts with Mia, a ritual we once cherished, but now it felt like a fragile glass teetering on the edge. The diner became our refuge, a smattering of comfort nestled in the midst of a world turned upside down. Each visit, I couldn't help but scan the room for Sarah. My insides twisted with desire and dread. I feared her absence as if it was a dark cloud threatening to overshadow our fragile peace. When she was there, her laughter wove into our conversations and wrapped around Mia like a warm hug. There was an undeniable connection between them, something that pulsed with unspoken understanding. One morning, as the aroma of pancakes filled the air, Sarah handed Mia a special chocolate chip muffin. The way Mia's eyes lit up was a balm for my weary heart. Just for a moment, she was my giggling, free-spirited daughter again. But as I watched Sarah kneel beside her, sharing a story about adventures she'd taken, a stabbing moment of realization belted through me. I was standing on uncertain ground. What if this connection was fleeting? That day, the diner felt quieter than usual, the clatter of silverware echoing against my thoughts. I stared into my coffee, watching the steam swirl, a dance of heat, rising only to dissipate into nothing. What was it about Sarah? I wanted to ask, to peel back the layers. But when our eyes met, the vulnerability in hers silenced my questions. Mia, how about we eat outside today? I suggested, hoping the open air would help drown out the noise of my spiraling fear. It was not the decision itself that scared me, but what it might mean: an opportunity to breach the chasm between Sarah's world and my own, or perhaps an invitation to reveal my scars. Yes. Can we, Daddy? Mia twinkled, drawing me out of my reverie. Her excitement pushed me, leading us outside to a small table wrapped in the golden play of the sun. The world outside felt alive, colors bursting in greets and goodbyes, but I was lost in thought. I caught Sarah's eye from across the bustling diner. She flashed a radiant smile, the corner of her mouth lifting in that way that sent jolts of warmth through me. I took a deep breath, my heart racing, and waved, my hand trembling with the same anticipation that had twisted in my stomach since the day we met. She approached with cautious steps, the cafe bustling behind her. We have a lovely day to enjoy out here, don't we? She glanced at Mia with that enchanting smile, and the sight caused my heart to swell with something I had long buried: hope. It's beautiful, Mia chirped, excitement bubbling in her voice, yet I could hardly breathe. Will you sit with us? Sarah hesitated as if weighing an unspoken decision. My heart sank, an avalanche of insecurity threatening to pull me under. Would she say yes? Would she unravel the space we had constructed between us? Or would she retreat back into her world? Of course. I'd love to, she replied, her voice warm and melodic. As she sat down, the laughter of Mia poured into the air between us, mingling with our shared silence like a delicate tapestry woven with threads of hope and hesitation. As we talked, small pleasantries giving way to deeper conversation, I felt the icy grip of loss loosening its hold. She shared stories of her travels, tales of unexpected kindness from strangers, and how she found joy in the little moments. Yet beneath her laughter was a weight of unshed tears, unspoken words, and inkling of something that ran just as deep as my own pain. And then, in the midst of this transient bliss, something changed. Sarah's gaze shifted, looking past me as if she saw something hidden in the shadows of the diner. Her voice nearly faltered, and my heart quickened. Sometimes, you think you can escape the past, but it has a way of catching up with you. My breath hitched, and I felt the electric undercurrent pulling between us. What? What do you mean? I stammered, my voice trembling. The heaviness of her words mingled with my own uncertainty, casting shadows over our conversation. But just as she opened her mouth to respond, the moment shattered. A commotion erupted from the diner, a loud voice bellowing through the door, cutting through our fragile wave of connection. I turned instinctively. A man appeared, orbiting chaos as his furious voice echoed against the walls. Where is she? She said she'd be here. My heart sank as I caught sight of his face, a familiar face, twisted in rage. A specter of my past, someone I knew too well. The recognition ran cold through me, each beat of my heart echoing in my ears. Would this man tear down everything I was trying to build, altering a path that had just begun to illuminate? I looked back to Sarah, understanding dawning in her eyes. The connection we had sparked now stood at the precipice of something dark. There was a storm brewing, and I knew it was no longer a question of whether I could escape my past, but if I even wanted to. The waiting silence expanded where there should have been laughter. our fragile moment now tethered to the edge of an impending conflict. Would this man rip apart our carefully woven connection, or was this just the beginning of another chapter for two souls tangled in their own grief? As the man's voice cut through the air, like a knife slicing through the soft warmth we had begun to forge, I felt every fiber of my being tense, a defense mechanism rising within me. My heart beat a wild rhythm in my chest as I stared at Sarah, desperately searching her eyes for answers, clarity, something to grasp onto as the storm approached. The diner seemed to shrink around us, the laughter of patrons eclipsed by the impending chaos. Who is he? Sarah's voice broke through my muddled thoughts, tinged with concern. The lightness that had previously danced between us gave way to an anxious heaviness, and I knew then that I couldn't hide the truth any longer. This man represented everything I had fled from, a past that loomed like a dark cloud over my present. He's someone from my past, I stammered, my voice barely a whisper as I gestured toward him in a futile attempt to explain. I thought I had put all that behind me. Sarah's eyes narrowed with unease as I watched the anger flare in the man's expression. It was a look I recognized well, a storm brewing beneath the surface. You can't run from your past, he shouted, his voice dripping with venom as he pushed his way through the diner, shoulders taut with rage. Mia, sweetheart, why don't you go inside and grab a soda? I urged, my voice surprisingly steady even as turmoil twisted in my stomach. She looked up at me with wide eyes, sensing something ominous had slipped between us, but she obliged, retreating into the diner, her hold on innocence unraveling. Don't you dare fucking talk to her, the man spat, his words biting and intended only for me. I could feel the anger radiating off him, the heat rising within me as I struggled to stay composed. But my past was not a bridge I wanted to burn, not when I'd just begun to build something seemingly solid with Sarah and Mia. This is not your place, I responded, my voice trembling with the effort to maintain control. This is my life now. He stepped closer, invading my space, the scent of alcohol wafting from him like a chaotic storm cloud. Your life? Or the life you've created while abandoning your responsibilities? His words were heavy with accusation, each one cutting deeper than the last. The chill shot through me, the shame of his words warm against my skin. I couldn't allow him to unearth the despair I'd fought to distance myself from. My gaze darted to Sarah, who stood at the edge of the patio, her aura a blend of curiosity and caution. With her vibrant personality, she had brought light back into my world, but the darkness of my past was threatening to swallow it whole. Leave us alone, I said, a fire igniting deep within me. We've moved on. But my assertion only fueled his rage. You don't just get to decide when the past is over, you coward. You think she's going to love you? She will see you for what you really are, nothing but a loser who ran away. The truth in his words hung uninvited in the air, stealing my breath. I felt a surge of panic as Sarah's face registered my fear, her expression morphing into one of understanding. A sudden swell of protective instinct surged through me, and I needed to shield her from this man, from my truth. Sarah, let's go back inside, I said, my voice softer as I beckoned her toward me. Her brow furrowed, the connection between us yearning to reach a place of honesty amidst the rubble. The man hissed, stepping closer, fists balled. This doesn't end well for you. Suddenly, a small, brave figure appeared from the diner. Mia grasped a fizzy drink in her tiny hands, eyes shining with innocence. Daddy, I got the soda. Can I share with Sarah? Her question sliced through the tension, pulling at the corners of my heart in a way that compelled me to gather strength. Hold on, sweetheart. I turned back to face the man, determination seeping into my bones. You won't come between us. You don't own my past, but you will not shape my future. As the words left my mouth, I caught a glimpse of Sarah's expression. It was a flicker of admiration mixed with worry, but that brief interaction ignited something in me, a commitment to nurture the bond forming between us, no matter the challenges that loomed ahead. Fine, he spat, eyes flickering with an unsettling rage. But this isn't over. You'll regret this. He stormed out, frustration and fear curled tightly in my stomach. I swallowed hard, processing the weight of his threat. With each heartbeat, I felt the distance between the fear of yesterday and the hope for tomorrow. I turned to Sarah and Mia, the two souls before me bearing pieces of light I couldn't afford to lose. "Are you okay?" Sarah asked softly, concern laced in her voice, eyes boring into mine, demanding the truth even as I battled my own vulnerability. But the words faltered, stuck in my throat, because I knew that in admitting the struggle, I would lay bare not just my heart, but the fear of another potential loss. Yet, before I could respond, Amaye's excited voice chimed in. "Daddy, you'll stay for my dance recital next week, right? I've been practicing for you and Sarah." A clean burst of innocence that lit up the drizzle of shadows settling on my heart that I glanced back toward Sarah, her eyes shimmering with shared awe at Amaye's enthusiasm, a tentative smile blooming on her lips. In that single moment, the noise surrounding us faded, and the potential for a life rooted in joy, laughter, and healing glimmered on the horizon. But just then, from out of the corner of my eye, I noticed the unmistakable figure of the man lurking outside the diner, watching, waiting. A dark presence still tethered to my life, threatening the fragile bond one was trying so desperately to cultivate. "Daddy, please, promise?" MIA's urging pulled me closer to the surface, the weight of uncertainty heavy in the air again. And as I struggled for a response, another realization struck. I was not just fighting for myself. I was fighting for Mia, for Sarah, and for the possibility of love I'd vowed to guard. What would happen if my past wasn't finished with me yet? What could I sacrifice to protect the flicker of hope that still burned brightly? The questions lingered like ghosts in the air, haunting and palpable as I clutched the promise of a new beginning while the shadows danced just outside the light. The diner smelled of stale coffee and grilled cheese, a comfort in its familiarity. As the door chimed with their departure, a flicker of relief washed over me, quickly followed by the weight of what remained unspoken. I gathered Mia in my arms, holding her close as though shielding her from the unseen dangers that lurked around us. "Let's go inside," I said, trying to sound reassuring, pushing past the knot in my stomach that felt like it was threatening to strangle me. Mia nestled against me, her small body providing an unexpected solace. I met Sarah's eyes again, a silent communication passing between us, each moment heavy with questions that hung like a thick fog. As we stepped into the diner, Sarah took the lead, her voice cutting through the ambient noise. "Can I help you get a table?" Her use of cheerfulness brushed away the shadows that clung to us. The dynamic between us had shifted, and for the first time today, there was a gentle ease mingling with the tension in the air. "Sure," I replied, my heart echoing the fleeting hope in the air. I followed her to a small booth near the window, my hand instinctively finding Mia's tiny fingers as she slid in beside me. I smoothed her hair, reveling in the innocence that surged from her. But as Sarah took a seat across from us, the joy was still accompanied by that gnawing anxiety. The man's words rattled in my mind like an unsettling drum. I hated that he had forced this conversation. I hated that my past, like an uninvited guest, had interrupted a moment that should have been simple, just an afternoon with two people I cared about. What did he mean about responsibilities? The inquiry was innocent, sharp, and I felt my heart plunge. I looked down at Mia, who sipped her soda, the effervescence tickling her nose as she giggled. The playful sound filled the air like a shield against reality. "Mia," I started, hesitating as I caught the glimmer of worry on Sarah's face. "It's a complicated story, sweetheart. You've been so wonderful with your dance practice. Let's talk about that instead. How about we make a plan for your recitals?" "But Daddy," she started, but Sarah's gentle hand on Mia's knee spoke volumes. "Mia, it's okay," Sarah smiled with an encouraging warmth. "Your dance recital is the most important thing right now. I would love to hear all about it." The way she leaned in, her eyes shining with genuine interest, made my heart swell. Perhaps beneath the storm clouds, there was still light, still hope. As Mia detailed her plans, I found myself hidden behind their cheerful exchange. Yet, my mind drifted back to the figure lurking outside, that familiar silhouette that could break through this fragile peace at any moment. Then, just as Mia began to mimic dance moves in the booth, a commotion at the door caught my attention. A woman had rushed in, her cheeks flushed, eyes darting around frantic. She zoomed toward the counter where a few of the regulars resided, motioning toward the door as though she was searching for someone. My heart raced at her urgency, and the unease crept back into my veins like insects crawling beneath my skin. "Mia," I said, my voice dipping in volume. "Stay close, okay?" She nodded dutifully, her attention still on Sarah, who had retreated slightly, glancing at me with an expression that spoke for itself, curiosity laced with concern. The commotion continued as the door swayed back, and the man from my past appeared again, looking disheveled, desperation etched across his features. My breath caught in my throat as my heart raced from confusion. Was he here to threaten again, or was it an unexpected plea? "Mia," I whispered urgently, "get under the table." The normalcy of the diner retreating as I motioned towards Sarah to stay silent. She caught my plea and without a word, gently pushed Mia down, whispering a promise that everything would be okay. "Please," he pleaded, a hint of vulnerability piercing through his anger. "I need to talk to you. It's important." "Important?" I repulsed, incredulous. The sense of betrayal coursed through me. "You don't get to just waltz back into my life and demand a conversation. You chose your path, remember? Please, for her sake," he interjected, his voice cracking, and, in that moment, the world shrank to just us. "I know you hate me, but you have to understand I didn't want this. I made mistakes, yes, but things have changed. It's about Mia. She has to know the truth." My heart thudded painfully in my chest, caught in the vice of conflicting emotions. His words hung in the air, a chill leaking through the barrier I had carefully constructed. I didn't want to let Mia hear this, didn't want her to feel any pain from a past I had fought so hard to shield her from. "Enough?" I insisted, voice steady and cold. The stillness of the diner surrounded us, every other sound fading as my resolve hardened. "If you want to hurt her, if you want her to know that life can throw punches, then fine. But you will not do it under this roof. You will not hurt her, no matter what twisted narrative you've spun in your head." His eyes narrowed, an unsettling desperation morphing into something dark, menacing. "You think this is over?" His voice dropped, barely above a whisper, filled with a raw intensity. "You're wrong. She deserves to know who you really are, who I really am." A wave of horror struck me, the implications swirling like dark clouds. I couldn't let Mia bear the weight of my history, could I? But the truth loomed like a specter, just on the horizon, waiting to unfurl its wings at the most inopportune moment. "Get out," I rasped, filling my voice with ice, hiding the rage that simmered beneath my skin. "Leave us alone." His eyes locked on me, a silent exchange of old wounds and new fears as he slowly backed away. "This isn't over," he murmured one last time before he disappeared into the blinding sunlight outside, the door swinging shut behind him. In the tense silence that followed, I could feel Sarah's anxious gaze upon me, and Mia's restlessness beneath the table, still sheltered from the storm brewing above. My heart thundered, my thoughts racing in a chaotic dance. "Daddy?" Mia's small voice broke through, innocence threading together the jagged edges of fear surrounding us. "Let's get some ice cream," I replied, masking the tremor in my voice as I helped her up. But as we made our way back into the entrance, the lingering presence of the man felt as taut as a string ready to snap. Deep down, I knew he would return. I had built walls to keep the monsters out, yet I found myself at war within them. And as Mia grasped my hand tightly, I realized the fight wasn't just for myself. It was for her, for every flicker of joy she deserved, every dream she hadn't been tainted with. I would fight, even if it meant unearthing the darkness and confronting demons I had long believed were buried. But with the shadows veering closer and the threats of the past whispered dangerously into the present, I realized the fight had only just begun. I stood at the diner's entrance, eyes scanning the street for any sign of him, the air thick with unresolved chaos. Mia tugged at my hand, her small fingers warm, bringing me comfort even as storm clouds loomed overhead. "Daddy?" she whispered again, her eyes wide with concern. "Yes, sweetie. Let's just focus on the ice cream, okay?" I responded, steeling myself against the tension twisting through my gut. As we approached the counter, Sarah was suddenly at our side, her smile bright and genuine, though I could see the hint of worry behind it. "I thought you two might like a scoop of our homemade chocolate fudge," she said, her voice cheerful as she beckoned us toward the dazzling array of ice creams. "It's the best in town." Mia's face lit up, and just like that, the shadows receded a little as I witnessed the magic of her laughter. She bounced on her toes, her fears momentarily forgotten in the face of rich chocolate. I couldn't bear to drag her back to the harshness of reality. Not yet. Chocolate fudge it is, I said, allowing a smile to break through the heaviness. As I ordered, Sarah chatted with Mia, equally enchanted. The two shared an easy rapport that tugged at my heart. Sarah engaged with Mia, just as I had always hoped someone would, someone who would treat her like she belonged, like she mattered. Do you want sprinkles? Sarah grinned, pouring delightful attention into Mia, as if she were an artist preparing to paint a masterpiece. Yes, please, Mia chirped, bouncing slightly in her seat, her eagerness infectious. It was these small moments, tiny flickers of happiness that kept my heart alive amid the storm. I watched as Sarah added sprinkles, the colorful flecks yellowing some of my worries, a fleeting reminder that there was still light, that joy still found a way. But soon, as the ice cream reached our table, my phone buzzed violently within my pocket, a chilling reminder that the past didn't simply fade away. Excuse me, I murmured, the weight of dread filling my chest as I stepped outside, trying to catch a breath. I needed some space to think, to push aside the gnawing anxiety that threatened to strangle everything good woven amidst the sugar and laughter. The moment I stepped outside, I caught sight of him across the street, leaning against an old lamppost, watching me with an intensity that clawed at my insides. My blood ran cold. His presence wove a thread of anger through me as I spun around, heart racing. Get away from us, I shouted, even as he simply watched, an inscrutable expression crossing his face. I wasn't ready to engage, to unravel the tangled web of our lives. Mia is part of this too, you know, he called out casually, though there was an edge of desperation in his tone. Stay away from my daughter. The fire in my veins surged, the reluctance slipping away beneath the anger's grasp. You lost that right long ago. His gaze dimmed, shifting from confrontation to something softer, more earnest, a hint of remorse. I'm not here to hurt her. I swear. I've changed. She has to know what really happened, the truth about you. A fog clouded my thoughts. My heart pounded painfully. What truth? The truth of a father who had abandoned ship when the storm hit? The truth that I had fought with every ounce of strength to shield her from? I shook my head, the overwhelming confusion clouding my judgment. I turned back towards the diner, scrambling to get away from him, while the world around me felt like it shuddered in agitated silence. Somehow, amidst the chaos, I found Sarah standing by the door, concern etched across her brow. It was her presence that pulled me from the abyss. Hey, is everything okay? She asked, her tone light, yet touched with gravity, as though she could see the shadows stretching behind me. But just as I was about to speak, a call pierced the air. It was the woman from earlier, the one who had rushed in with desperation, now back at the diner, her cheeks still flushed. Excuse me, she said, catching my eye, her expression one of urgency. Have you seen my daughter? My breath caught in my throat, the sudden weight of realization. The possibilities stretched wide before me, the interconnectedness of lives that wrapped around me like a noose. Was my world about to collide again in ways I never anticipated? I don't know, I stammered, memories flooding back of my own chaotic decisions. What do you mean? How long has she been missing? Just then, Mia emerged from the diner's shadows, her innocent face alight with confusion. Daddy? I was waiting for you, she called, her little voice cutting through the tension like a fumbled heartbeat. Eyes darting between my daughter and the frantic mother, I felt a sinister understanding digging into my soul. This was no mere coincidence. The shadows of my past merged with the present, spiraling deeper into the heart of a tangled web. And just as I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, the door swung open again. The figure of the man specter of my past stepped through with a chilling calmness. I think it's time we talk. His voice dripped with a certainty that left no room for denial, as anxiety tightened its grip on my heart. There was no running now. The truth was coming, whether I was ready or not. I took a breath, the sharp scent of winter mingling with the lingering aroma of fries and ice cream from the diner. It felt like a discordant symphony. One soothing note clashed against the shrill cries of my burgeoning fears. Everything, the colors, the warmth, even the laughter I'd just shared with Mia faded into a muted gray as I stood at the precipice of a reality I hadn't wanted to face. Just get away from us. I felt the words tear through my throat, sharper than I intended. His gaze remained steady, flashing with something I couldn't quite place defiance, perhaps. You think walking away will change anything? You can protect her all you want, but the world isn't as simple as you hope it to be. Mia's innocent confession, Daddy? I was waiting for you. Pierced through the chaos. She stood, small and trusting, oblivious to the tempest brewing in her father's chest. Her presence anchored me and emboldened me to confront this specter of my past. Yet I felt the gravity of the moment collapse onto my shoulders. Mia, honey, why don't you go inside and enjoy your ice cream? He'll be right there, I managed to say, each word laced with a tension I struggled to mask, her brows furrowed slightly, sensing the tremor in my voice. But I want to stay with you, sweetheart. Trust me, I need to talk. This wasn't the conversation I wanted to have. This wasn't how I envisioned her childhood, rife with uncomfortable truths twisted around memories of him. I urged her towards the door, trying to project strength even as I felt so fragile that she stepped away. The man's voice slithered through the space between us, deep and accusing. You're pushing her away just like you pushed me away. This is your chance to make it right. Make it right? I laughed, but the sound was humorless. You abandoned us. You think coming back now can fix that? His eyes dimmed, and for a moment, I saw the flicker of a Ghanaian ember of regret that hinted at the possibility he hadn't truly left without caring. But I shook my head, willing the thoughts away. Save it. You don't get to pull on my heartstrings now, not after everything. Just as the air grew thick with unresolved animosity, the woman from earlier caught my eye again, her figure silhouetted against the doorway. Please, I need help, she gasped, her voice quaking. My daughter's been missing for over 2 hours. I came here hoping someone might have seen her. My stomach dropped. With that confession, the tension warped in my chest sharp and urgent, and I began to understand the frightening parallels converging in this moment. The man's presence began to feel like a storm overshadowing another brewing tempest. The palpable fear clouding the woman's expression hung heavily in the air. What does she look like? I asked, trying to focus my whirling thoughts, to be present in the now. About Mia's age, maybe a little older, brown hair, freckles. I thought she might have come here. The woman's anxiety was contagious, threatening to seep into my veins. That's when I caught a glimpse of Sarah, her brow knitted in concern as she approached us, seemingly drawn to the gathering chaos. What's happening? She asked, taking note of the pallor in the woman's face. Her voice was soothing, grounding. Have you seen my daughter? The woman pleaded, desperation thickening her tone as she turned to Sarah. But before Sarah could answer, Mia was back, tugging on my sleeve with an urgency that ignited a sense of dread. Daddy, there's someone outside. I think they're looking for someone. Mia, stay inside. I snapped, fear bubbling to the surface as I gestured her back toward the safety of the diner. My protective instincts roared, urging me to shield her from everything and everyone. Mia, please, just listen. But the tiny hand tugged at me again, and against my better judgment, I turned to face her bright eyes filled with concern. There's a lady with a dog, Daddy. She was calling for someone named Ellie. The word struck me like a lightning bolt, electrifying the air with a stark clarity. Ellie. My mind raced back through the swirling static of emotions and regrets. The echoes of my past had entwined with this moment, and as realization washed over me, the threat of intertwining our fates felt imminent. Before I could fully grasp it, my heart sank once more as my eyes found the man again, watching, waiting, the remnant shards of my past colliding with the urgency of this moment. It's time to deal with this, he mouthed, as if summoning a truth that loomed dangerously close. Right before I could retaliate, another voice, harsh and cold, erupted just beyond the street. Where is she? I swear, if you've done anything. A figure surged forward, shoving through the crowd gathering near the diner. My breath caught, throat closing up at the realization it was a man with a similar intensity, dedicated to another unsettling cause. That I stood frozen, the air thickening as the shadows of my past closed in. My impending decisions loomed ominously ahead. Whose heart would break in the wake of this turbulent storm? The truth I had shielded from Mia fought to claw its way into the open, threatening to unleash chaos. And just like that, standing on the precipice of revelations, the cliff crumbled beneath me, throwing me into a chasm of unknowns. whispers of love and abandonment flickering in the shadows of what remained. The cacophony of approaching footsteps echoed around me, a dissonant chorus that drowned out my thoughts. As I stared at the man charging forward, his expression twisted with fury and fear, my mind was a tornado of memories I thought I'd buried deep. "Mia?" I shouted, instinctively reaching out to her. But the sound of that singular name broke loose other echoes from my past, the shouts, the arguments, the moments of shattered glass and broken promises. The din of the diner faded into the background, all emotions collapsing upon themselves as I anchored myself to my daughter's presence. Something within me shifted. The haunted look on the woman's face ignited a fire in my heart, pushing aside the shadows of my own betrayal. I had brought Mia to this place of ephemeral joy and now stood at the verge of letting darkness bleed into light. I could almost hear a thrum of the universe urging me to step forward, to protect the innocent while facing my inadequacies. The man I had once feared was just a man, now a broken figure clad in anguish. "Where is she?" he bellowed, relentless as his gaze swept past me to the woman, desperate for answers. "She's been missing, and you know it." In that moment, I sensed something shifting within him, a deep remorse simmering beneath the surface. I couldn't afford to let his past sway me, yet a flicker of understanding sparkled in my chest. This wasn't just about me or my daughter, or even the woman searching frantically for her child. It was about a world steeped in grief, endless and intertwining, claiming far too many lives in its grasp that I don't know, okay? The woman's voice cracked, her composure splintering under the weight of fear. "I came here because I was told my Ellie." My voice curdled in disbelief, the name wrapping around me like a suffocating cloak. So many Ellies had drifted through my past, illuminating strange corridors cluttered with shadows. "You're looking for Ellie?" "Yes." She gripped her trembling hands into fists, eyes wide with desperation. "Have you seen her?" "They said she might be here." As a crowd gathered, a mix of concern and curiosity sparking in their eyes, I remained planted in place, trapped between worlds. The man beside me advanced with a purpose that matched my mounting anxiety, but it was the image of Mia that pulled me back to the zephyr of hope threading through this darkness. I glanced down to see her standing against the diner wall, her small frame cast in flickering light, wide eyes betraying her confusion. Suddenly, Sarah emerged again, slicing through the tension like a knife cutting through butter. She reached out toward the woman. "Maybe we can help," she suggested gently, her voice a balm against the rising tide of chaos that my instincts bristled. "No, not without knowing more. We can't just let's not waste time," Sarah interjected. The warmth of her determination was palpable, urging me to see the light amidst the growing shadows. Before I could counter, Mia spoke up, a delicate hand brushing against my arm. "Daddy, can I help? I want to help her find her daughter." The sincerity in her voice was like a soft whisper of summer, grounding me, and anew I was reminded of the empathy I hoped to nurture within her. The woman's eyes glimmered with a spark of gratitude, reaching for Mia, drawn in by the innocence and the fire of her desire to be good. That moment stoked a flicker inside me as well, a tiny ember, laden with the potential for connection. "Mia, tell her what you saw," I said, my voice trembling, lacing with authority that felt both foreign and necessary. Her face lit up as she recounted the details of the woman and her dog. I matched each of her words with my own memories, searching for connections with the fragments of my past. Perhaps this was my chance to weave together the remnants of love I had left behind, to build a new legacy for Mia. "Can you describe the dog?" the woman asked, her voice regaining a thread of composure. The desperation never left her eyes, but pulse of hope began to pulsate. "A little fluffy thing, white with brown spots." She had a bow on her collar too, a pink one, Mia announced proudly, her cheeks flushed from excitement. The burden of despair lifted momentarily, replaced by the buoyancy of childhood innocence that I watched as the woman's shoulders relaxed incrementally, the tension of her fear dissipating like smoke. "That's Ellie's favorite collar," she murmured, clenching her fists harder. "If you saw them," but before she could finish, the tense atmosphere shattered like glass. The man, emboldened, stepped past me to the woman. "You might have to prepare yourself for the worst," he cautioned, his voice laced with bitterness, a shadow of someone who had felt loss all too plainly. "Kids can wander far. And time is Mia. Stay close to me, I ordered, the weight of my past colliding with every breath. I couldn't afford to lose this battle, not just for myself, but for her. The stakes felt higher, reality mixing with blurred emotions, each moment crystallizing memories of loss and love. Please, the woman uttered, her voice a threadbare whisper, desperation clawing at her words. Help me find her before it's too late. Suddenly, the world spun around us, as if the fates were aligning in a heartbreaking waltz. And just then, in the distance, the familiar barks of a small dog broke through the haze, a melody strumming at the strings of hope interlaced with despair. Wait, I shouted, heart pounding at the sight of a small white shape darting through the gathering crowd. A frantic rush of people parted before me, and in that chaotic moment, I felt the world tilt on its axis. Ellie, the woman cried, her voice ripping through the night as realization dawned upon us. And just then, narrowly brushing against the rim of imminent devastation, I locked eyes with the man, the unmoored ghost of my past who had unwittingly followed me into this tumultuous present. In that shared look, 1,000 unspoken truths hung between us. All at once, the threads of my life began to unravel, revealing the shards of a future I had fought so hard to build. The weight of collision drew closer, making me uneasy. Maybe, just maybe, I hadn't been as far away from love as I thought until these unexpected moments showed me a path of flickering hope. But as Ellie broke through the crowd, a girl with familiar features, it shocked me to the core. The realization washed over me, a tidal wave that crashed through every layer of my guarded heart, sending shivers down my spine all the while. A single name echoed in my mind like a chant, an unbroken spell. In the midst of the chaos, I was left gasping, teetering on the edge of this beautiful, merciless storm. The ringing laughter spilled from the diner like sunlight after a storm, yet inside, darkness loomed just beneath its surface. I felt it creeping along the walls, entwined with the echoes of familiar voices and bright smiles, now tinged with disquiet. Each heartbeat resonated in my ears as the reality of the moment settled in. Mia tugged at my hand, her small fingers warm and real, pulling me into the present against the overwhelming tide of my memory-laden past. Daddy, can we help her? She asked, her eyes glistening with an innocence that rattled my weary soul. I wanted to shield her from the world, from the overwhelming weight of potential loss. But something about her eagerness urged me to Listento trust. I was caught in a web of conflicting feelings, tortured between protecting my daughter and helping a stranger renew her hope. I watched the woman, her face a mask of desperation etched with grief. I took a deep breath and stepped closer. There was an unexpected resolve blooming within me, spurred on by Mia's childlike compassion. Perhaps it was time to forge a new path where shadows of my past could no longer bind me. Yes, I said quietly, a tremor of determination lacing my voice. We will help you. The woman turned, her surprise mingling with something else. Hope? Relief? Thank you, she whispered, the words trembling on the edge of a prayer. You don't know how much this means. But the atmosphere shifted again, heaviness choking off the air around us. I glanced behind and noticed the man who had charged through the door moments ago, still lingering, his expression twisted and haunted as he surveyed the growing crowd. It was a stark reminder that each person bore their own weight carried in their hearts. Let's start with the last place you saw Ellie, I suggested, not willing to allow doubt to seep into the fragile walls we had just constructed. Mia piped up, flower-like in her enthusiasm. We can retrace our steps, just like a treasure map. Her eyes lit up with excitement, a beacon amidst the storm threatening to consume us all. Exactly, I replied, forcing a smile to mask my deepening worries. I gently squeezed her hand, drawing strength from the way she continued to inspire courage within me, and felt a flicker of warmth in my chest, a reminder of the love I once vowed to protect. As we began to outline our plan, Sarah returned, her presence a grounding force amidst the chaos. Do you have any photos? She asked the woman, her voice softer now, infused with the kind of empathy that warmed the air around us. With a shaky hand, the woman pulled a crumpled picture from her pocket. It bore the image of a little girl with laughter etched in her eyes and a fluffy dog by her side. Ellie, the missing piece that connected us. I could see the flickering candle of hope within her, desperately searching for reassurance that it could all mend. Mia? Do you remember anything about where you saw Ellie? Sarah prompted, her encouraging tone beckoning Mia to dive deeper into her recollections. That I think I remember the park. And there was a swing said they were playing with a red ball. Mia's voice rose in excitement, each word carrying what I could only describe as the purest of intentions. Perfect, Sarah exclaimed, glancing at me with that look of determined optimism I had found solace in. Let's go there. As we moved toward the door, I felt a sense of urgency build inside me, as though the very fabric of fate had shifted. There was a thrill in our mission, and swelling camaraderie with warm undercurrents of our combined purpose piercing through the chill of disquiet. But even as I grew hopeful, dread snaked its way back into my consciousness. Wounds both old and new began bleeding together, and I imagined what it meant to fail once again. I clutched Mia's hand tighter, the thought of losing her leaving me shivering at my own vulnerability. Just as I steadied my resolve, I met the woman's gaze, and in that fleeting moment, sadness flooded between us like a haunting wave. Don't worry, I spoke softly, not knowing if it was meant more for her or me. Well, fine. Ellie. With every step toward the park, sunlight spilled through the trees, and small whispers of laughter brushed against my ears. Yet the lingering specter of what lay ahead loomed larger than ever, and doubt gnawed at me in vicious waves. My heart pounded in my chest with every growing possibility. What if we were too late? What if the fear now cocooning the woman would painfully unfold before our eyes? Arriving at the park felt surreal, as if we were stepping into a scene that played out in slow motion. A dappled light painted the swing sets in an aura of nostalgia, and laughter entwined with the fragrance of blooming flowers. But beneath that picture-perfect moment lay the undertow of urgency, every sound an echo of hope, and still I could feel despair lurking just out of reach. Look, Mia shouted, darting toward the playground, her excitement spilling over. My heart raced right alongside hers, yet an instinct pulled me back, grounding me until I could breathe deeply again. As the woman approached the swings where Ellie last played, my chest tightened further. She turned to me, eyes wide with a mix of yearning and desperation. What if she's not here? What if I can't find her? She murmured, her words like shards of glass piercing through my heart. Suddenly, the laughter from the playground stilled, folding into an eerie silence. And just when panic threatened to envelop us, I caught a glimpse of a flash of white from the corner of my eye. My breath hitched. I motioned for the woman to follow, our footsteps quickening as we rounded the corner. This way, I urged, guided by an instinct far beyond my own grasp. And just when I thought I glimpsed a small Shapian, all too familiar, my heart stuttered. As we drew closer, the reality unspooled before us in frantic beats. The dog, the one in Mia's description, but beside her, in the sun-drenched shadows, was not Ellie. An unexpected wave crashed against the shore of my hope. Instead, a girl, dirt-streaked and ragged with familiar features, emerged. A girl who embodied pieces of my own past. One who drew me into the depths of my unresolved story. Skylar? I whispered in disbelief. My mind spun with a whirlwind of questions and realization, the past surging forth like an untamed tide. I had sworn I would never love again. Yet here was a ghost pulling me back into a life I thought I had escaped. The woman gasped, realization sweeping through her. But before I could call out, before I could comprehend the sheer reality of this shocking revelation, the world tilted once more and plunged deeper into chaos. The swings creaked under a profound silence once filled with laughter. As connection and confusion collided, all I could grapple with was the weight of love and loss, and the taunting question that lingered, curling like a dark vine around my heart. Would I have the strength to embrace what had come back to haunt me? The moment hung in the air, electric with uncertainty. My breath caught in my throat as I reached out, my heart racing in sync with my spiraling thoughts. Skylar stood before me, a shimmering reflection of a past I had desperately tried to bury. Her eyes brimming with the same fierce spirit I remembered ignited conflicting emotions. How could she be here, and what did it mean for all of us? The woman, Lydia, seemed momentarily frozen, caught in a haunting limbo between relief and disbelief. She glanced between Skylar and me, her brow furrowed with an unmistakable clash of emotions. You know her? Her voice trembled, barely a whisper in the thickening silence. I stammered, every word weighted with memories I thought had long since faded. I knew her very well. Skylar's gaze shifted, scanning the bustling park, the sun casting a warm glow around the vibrant playmates surrounding us. I was playing with Ellie's dog, she said, her tone innocent and unaware of the wave of memories crashing over me. He ran away, and I followed him. I thought I'd lost you. The raw confusion etched into her features compelled me to reach towards her, but doubt tangled my intentions. This was not just a chance encounter, it was a twisted thread of fate weaving my past and present together, a design I was not prepared to unravel. Where's Ellie, Skylar? Lydia's voice was urgent now, an ember igniting her desperation into a blaze. Skylar furrowed her brow, contemplating. She was just here. We were playing together, and then her words trailed off, unraveling into silence, the weight of missing innocence pressing down on her small shoulders. Lydia's face drained of color, tears pooling in her eyes as her hopes hovered precariously. Can you remember the last place you saw her? She edged closer, a mother's instinct rising beneath the surface, fueled by the swells of emotion. I think she went towards the trees, Skylar murmured, her voice trembling as she turned back toward the heart of the park. I could see the spark of determination flicker in Lydia's eyes, even as the fear lurked behind it like a shadow. Without thinking, I found myself stepping closer to Skylar, drawn by the need to protect her too. Let's go together, I suggested, my heart racing with a mixture of tenderness and confusion. I yearned to shield Skylar from the trauma that wrapped Lydia like a suffocating cloak, a dark reminder of a life I had wanted to forget. As we moved tentatively towards the trees, Mia tugged at my hand, her little fingers a steady anchor. What's happening, Daddy? Her innocent gaze shifted between us with curiosity woven through it. A mixture of hope and concern painted across her youthful features. Just another adventure, I replied, forcing a smile, though even I could hear the uncertainty lacing my voice. A very important adventure. The trepidation wrapped around me like a shroud. I hadn't just been trying to protect Mia from the weight of the world. I had been attempting to shield myself from the ghosts that clung to my past, from the heartbreak that pulsed beneath the skin of every laugh shared and smile exchanged. Skylar had walked away once, and the thought of that ragged chapter reopening made my heart ache. That we reached the trees, thick branches intertwining as if they formed a barrier between happiness and despair. The playground noises faded into the backdrop, and suddenly it felt too quiet, the air thick with dread. Skylar, I encouraged gently, can you think of anything else that can help us find Ellie? Skylar paused, visibly searching her memories while biting her lip, the weight of the world resting heavily on her fragile shoulders. I remember she had blue balloons. We were going to the picnic. Her brow furrowed, and she clutched the picnic basket still at her side. Hope flickered again. A jolt of hope surged within Lydia, her face lighting up. The picnic. The balloons. She wouldn't just leave those behind. If we can find the balloons, we might find Ellie. Mia, invigorated by the clues, pointed forward with renewed enthusiasm. Let's go? But my heart sank deeper. We'd better hurry, I urged, the urgency of our mission weighing heavily on all of us. As we wove through the dense foliage following Skylar's fading memories, a sudden rustle pierced the air, abrupt and jarring. My breath faltered, and I turned sharply. Did you hear that? An uneasy silence folded over us for a heartbeat, and Lydia glanced back apprehensively. What if something happened? What if she's no? I snapped, trying to erase the creeping darkness from my mind. We won't think like that. We will find her. My voice battled against the rising tide of despair. Mia squeezed my hand tighter, her palms warm and trusting. And then, just as we approached a clearing, I caught sight of something fluttering in the breeze, a blue ribbon tied to the remnants of a balloon, swirling gently like a fading memory. Panic surged inside me, mingled with the light flickering in our peripheral vision. Over there, I shouted, rushing to the clearing. But as we entered, the light transformed into shadow. The ground sunk beneath the weight of what lay ahead, a sudden chill whispering through the trees. There, before us, stood a figure cloaked in the damp evening air, a familiar silhouette that sent shockwaves through my bones. dread unfurling in layers. I whispered, barely daring to breathe. "You, how are you?" Time froze as the realization settled within me. The truth was tangled in the threads of our lives, one that I never expected to confront. "What are you doing here?" The figure stepped into the dim light, and the words that followed sent chills down my spine, a haunting echo of my own past colliding with a present I was struggling to grasp. "Because I've come to find you, and am not alone." The air thickened with tension as a sinking realization pooled in the pit of my stomach. For just as I envisioned finding hope, the stunning revelation rendered me speechless, boundaries between love and despair fracturing yet again. And in that moment, I understood. The chaotic dance of fate was far from over, and the stakes had just risen for all our hearts intertwined in this unfathomable journey. The air was charged with unspoken emotions as I stood frozen, the figure before me a chilling reminder of my shattered past. I blinked, processing the sharp edges of familiarity that cut through my heart. My breath quickened as I searched beneath the facade of anger and fear for the remnants of the girl I used to know, a girl who had once laughed under the sun with me, who shared secrets shrouded in innocence. "Skylar, stay close," I whispered, instinctive protectiveness reigning over me, but it was a battle against the torrent of fear rising within me. I could feel Mia's little hand in mine, her warmth a tether against the encroaching darkness that threatened to swallow us whole. "What are you doing here?" I finally managed to demand, my words a fragile facade behind which chaos brewed. The figure stepped closer, and familiarity twisted in unexpected ways. "I've come to find you. All of you," she said, her voice tinged with a mix of longing and uncertainty. The weight of the world hung heavy on her shoulders, a world I once thought I had stepped away from, only to realize the boundaries of our lives were intertwined deeper than I could ever understand. "Mia, sweetheart, why don't you stay by Sarah?" I suggested, though part of me wanted to keep her sheltered close. I needed to confront this specter and figure out what it wanted from Muhat storm it threatened to unleash upon us. "No." Mia's small voice piped up, innocent and resolute. "I want to help. Let me help." "Help?" The word felt laden with implications, tugging at the strings of my heart. She was a brave little warrior, willing to confront the unknown, even as my fears swirled. I squeezed her hand tighter, attempting to merge that sense of safety with the knowing that my past had returned to haunt me. "Lydia," I started, but she cut me off, the emotions spilling out like a torrent. "Ellie is gone," she said, "and all I remember is having a playdate here for her birthday, and then everything fell apart." Her voice cracked, and the pain filtering through cut through my heart, mirroring my own past with painful echoes. The revelation twisted the anguish and disappointment I sensed within her, melding it into the reality of a day once filled with sunshine, now shadowed by loss. Guilt ebbed deep in my chest, a flicker igniting in the depths of my soul. "I wouldn't have left if I'd known," Lydia whispered, vulnerability threading her words. "If I'd known what might happen." "What do you mean?" I leaned closer, the questions swirling around us like storm clouds threatening to unleash their fury. "My Ellie, she was just playing," but when I turned away for a moment, Lydia's voice cracked. The pain was raw, unfiltered. It was a reminder of my own scars, of promises I had shattered. "Please, we need to keep looking," Skylar urged, her fragile voice instilling fierce hope. "We'll find her." And just like that, the realization that flickered in Lydia's eyes anchored me in a way I'd never expected. This was more than just a confrontation, it was a chance for redemption, no matter how fragile. As uncertainty loomed, the weight of our shared burden began to transform a spark amid the darkness, offering possibilities that once seemed lost. I sighed deeply, feeling Mia's innocent presence behind me like a shield against the shards of fate, ready to pierce my resolve. "We can't lose hope," I uttered, glancing between Lydia and the girl I hadn't seen in years, between the girl who had chased the light and the darkness that always seemed to follow. Just as I began to foster that hope, the rustle through the trees beckoned again, this time echoing with a distant bark. A light tugged at me, coaxing me forward. "This way there," I shouted, pointing toward the sound, and instinctively caught in the hope that this ripple of fate might lead us to where Ellie could be. That we surged through the underbrush, chasing after that glimmer, hearts synchronized in a shared longing for reunion and hope. As we turned the corner, vibrant colors danced in the sun, And there, a small shape bounded through the trees, the silhouette of a little girl with a wayward dog trailing behind, its fluffy white body bouncing beneath the golden light. The world slowed for a heartbeat. Is that? Lydia's whisper hung in the air as the distance between us evaporated. Ellie. The pain and fear in our hearts shattered into a million hopeful pieces. As the little girl turned around, her eyes lighting up like a lighthouse in the storm, illuminating the not-so-distant shores of connection. In that whirlwind of emotions, memories drifted, mending the fractures of our past, pulling us into the momentum moment where we were no longer bound by separation, where we could bridge the chasms that had haunted us. She rushed toward her mother. The distance melted away. Lydia fell to her knees, tears spilling over as she wrapped her arms around Ellie, the moment captured in a kaleidoscope of light and love. I felt my heart swell, encasing the fragile hope that had ignited in our souls, swirling amid the echoes of long-buried pain. Mia stepped beside me, an awestruck expression painted across her face. "See, Daddy? We did it." The innocence of her giggle burst through the air, a melody of joy that snapped me back into the reality of this moment. "Yeah," I whispered, blinking back the sudden swell of tears that threatened to spill. "We did." In the shadows behind us, Skylar smiled. A flicker of light ignited as she intertwined her fingers with mine. As the chaos of the world around us faded, I could sense something shifting deep within Maya. Release, a chance to forgive the past and embrace the living present. While the echoes of lost chapters would always linger, we stood at a new beginning, the haunting whispers no longer weighing us down. The past had not broken me. Instead, it forged the connections that ignited a new future. With hearts entwined in the fragile tapestry of life, a single thought grazed my mind, reverberating against the stillness of my battered hope. Love and acceptance are the strongest forms of forgiveness, and they can strip the shadows away, letting the light return and flourish. "We found her," I breathed, while the laughter of children filled the air, beckoning us forward. And in that breathtaking moment, I realized that love, no matter how broken, is resilient enough to mend even the deepest wounds.